Hello, everybody, and welcome to this second day of 10th Asian Metallurgy and Steel and Metal Expo. We are here to discuss the future of steel industry. The big question here is how long the growth will continue. We all know that we had a very bad period during pandemic, but in the pandemic itself, the steel industry started recovering, and a lot of people say, a lot of experts say that it is almost a V-shaped recovery. Okay, so this V-shaped recovery, we have demonstrated that the market is growing. We have demonstrated that we have capacity to produce steel, grow the production level, and cater to the growing market. But the question here is how long the growth will continue. And we have with us experts from the field. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Sharad Mahindra. Mahindra has been an old hand in steel industry, and he is now CEO of JSW Steel Coated Products Limited. Welcome, Mr. Mahindra, and we would definitely like to hear your insights about the present status and the future prospects of steel industry in this light. Then I would also welcome Mr. Roger Kumar. Roger Kumar is a technologist, technocrat, entrepreneur, and he is the chief supplier of coal gasification technology to not only Indian but the global steel industry. Welcome, Mr. Roger Kumar. And we have Mr. N.S. Rathore. Mr. N.S. Rathore is expert in raw material beneficiation and pelletization technologies and raw material processing technologies. And here he is in the capacity of a raw material expert from steel industry. Welcome, Mr. Rathore. Can you hear me, Mr. Rathore? You are mute. You are mute.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So I would like to start with Mr. Sharad Mahindra. And Mr. Mahindra, I would like to ask you the how was this pandemic days? Let us start from there. How were these pandemic days, and how your company recovered, and what were the strategies adopted to recover from the pandemic and come to the level where you are today?
Thank you, Jandikarji. In fact, it is a very nice platform today. Thanks for organizing this event. And that selection of the topic, I think, is very relevant when we see the near past of last 1.5, 2 years, and where we are today and going forward, how it looks to be for the Indian steel industry in general, the growth of the country and the contribution of steel. I think it's a very, very relevant topic, which bodes very well with the plans being discussed, plans being thought of, that how to take care of the Indian growth. But before coming to those points, maybe to answering to your questions, last 2 years we all know have been challenging. It has made us to learn new way of life, how to live, how to work, how to maybe in general perform, whether at personal or professional level. And I think this is world over phenomena, which is now going to be a permanent feature. The initial days when this pandemic broke, I think it was challenging for the industry, challenging for every individual. Things closed down. But yes, a proper care was taken. It was understood not by only by us, by the industry, or we all at JSW, but even at the government level, that whatever happens, I think we were initially taking care of life, but then the question came of life and livelihood. If I do very, very strict measures for a very long period, then livelihood will be a question, and that will result in a much bigger permanent loss than. So it was a calculated move which was taken by the government of India. And I think we all are seeing today also, and hope that the things continue the way it is. The way things have been handled by the government have been phenomenal. The way the things have come under control, and we hope that things will be remain like this. So, but yes, we at JSW definitely after experiencing the close down, we started understanding that demand will remain muted, demand will remain because of the closed lockdowns, will remain low, but at the same time, demand will be there. And as we have experts in technology, experts of raw material, that it is required that to cater to even a reduced demand, whether it is at 25% or 30% level or 40% level, if the steel mills have to run, they have to run at a minimum capacity they have to run to be efficient and to be able to produce. Whether we talk of blast furnace, majority is blast furnace in India. So now taking care of the very, very reduced demand during the initial few months of pandemic in India, it was understood that the opportunities have started coming from the international market. So we all know that initial 6 months to 9 months, when the things started opening up, significant portion of steel was being exported. And at the same time, whatever demand in the country was being met in totality, not at the cost of domestic demand. But without catering to the global market, it would not have been possible to even cater to the domestic demand by running huge blast furnaces and other things. So that was one of the strategy which we took, in general, the industry took. And one thing which has been proven is that that how important India is to the global market has been proven in last 1.5 years. Is one learning which has come from the pandemic, post-pandemic, when the things started opening up. Otherwise, what would have happened in Europe and other Western markets, had India been not there to cater to their requirements with whatever is happening in China, we know. Another thing, learning which has come from this pandemic is way of doing the business, and technology has been playing a very, very important role. We all have been talking and reading digitalization, and automation has become a key, and which has become a part of the business. And ESG, which is now very, very important going forward, is environment, sustainability, everything. This has become so important, and governance, that has been also one of the major focus in last 1.5, 2 years. You may be aware that I think the panelists and the people listening here, that for the first time we have come with the bond issue, which we came related to the carbon footprint and ESG as a factor in that, linking it, which shows the resolve of the Indian steel industry and we at JSW, that we have given a target, which is a very, very challenging target, at where we are, where we will be in 2025 and where we will be 2030. It is linked with that. So all those things put together sees the seriousness of the Indian steel industry, and of course we are JSW. That is very important. Maybe I will now request maybe Chandika, the others to speak. I have other points also during the time.
Obviously, yes. We will come back to you definitely. And thanks for your opening remarks. Mr. Roger Kumar, when pandemic was in full swing, what you were thinking? Thinking that the business cannot be run further, or what? Or how did you tackle the situation?
See, I thank you very much, Andika, and very much honored to be here with this August gathering. I have a very different take on this, Chandika ji.
Yeah.
See, nature has a capacity to self-correct itself. Okay. So we fiddled with nature and something came up, and this is not the last time it is going to come. It is going to keep coming. It is going to keep coming in many ways. Okay. At the same time, like, this is not a deterrent or something that we can stop. Our steel industry is, I would say, if Mr. Sharad would vouch for me, we are still at a nascent stage. Very, very nascent. Our infrastructure is like absolutely throttling type. Okay. We are yet to become, we haven't seen any multi-story building, 50-story, 100-story, like you see in Manhattan, or you see in Shanghai, or you even Dubai for that matter. So these pandemics, if you say that, I was not at all scared, because I knew that, you see, spring hota hai na, you can just compress it, but when you leave it, it's going to come back more quickly. That's exactly what has happened to Indian economy. If you see, you suppressed it for some time, but if you see the average of 1 year, we have done phenomenally well. right? So it's always there. History shows us the same situation. When there was the World War, after the World War, only Europe developed, and Europe developed because of World War. Steel industry
In a way,
all,
yes.
all over Sheffield, all over UK, the steel industry developed because of World War, and the technologies came because of World War. And after World War, there was exponential growth because they were doing all the infrastructure development all over Europe.
Like the spring
So,
action which you are saying.
exactly. Now, similar is the stage with India. Indian, if you say per capita consumption of steel of India is only 75 kg, dear, today also. World average is 225. It is 3 times. China, America is 25 times today. It is 2000 kg. So we are actually nowhere. We just have to look up into the sky. We can have an exponential growth. These nature things, viral, this will keep on coming. We will keep, this is all nature disaster, which will come because we are fiddling with nature. This is what I think. We have fiddled enough.
Yeah.
And I can assure you many more things are going to come which we haven't even heard till now. But it will not deter the industry. I'm pretty sure about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roger, for your opening remarks. Yes, your resolve is very strong. All of us resolve is very solid. That's why we survived and we grew. But before I move on to Mr. Rathod, just one thing I wanted to just mention, that you were talking about anyway, I'll first go to Mr. Rathod. Mr. Rathod, your opening comments, please. Because in the light of the raw materials availability for this entire period of crisis, that is something I wanted to hear about from you.
Yeah. About the raw material availability, see, there are already many sources. The standard raw material for iron ore was being processed. But during this period, many minings have done some work on how to process their waste material, improve the grade of their waste material. That trials were continued, and good results have come. Even
Sir,
there has
थोड़ा
been
वीडियो एडजस्ट कीजिए, थोड़ा वीडियो का एंगल एडजस्ट कीजिए. हाँ, अभी एकदम ठीक है सर.
Then there were few challenges, and we had the time to address them. One of the very big challenge in this industry was recovery of iron ore component from the tailings, or while processing to recover maximum material. So these things continued, and we have established that now there is a technology available by which the iron ore particles up to 5 micron or even below, which was a limitation, that 20 micron and below beneficiation equipments were inefficient. So that is one of the achievement which has been taken place during this period, and I have given a presentation also on this Steel World magazine. And raw material, conservation of raw material, study of raw material, that is very important. And now the industry can see that they can recover. If they recover below 20 micron material concentrate also the particle, many things will happen. One, the tailing can be utilized for many other purposes because it doesn't contain the iron. Second, this recovery will itself be, you can say in other words, the productivity of the beneficiation industry will go by at least 12 to 15% additional. So during this work has been done, which will help the industry to support on the raw material part of it. And there are other things we have been doing some kind of research study to upgrade the process which were followed conventional processes. So we have come out of that. In addition, there has been a development where normally the iron ore beneficiation is carried out below, say, 200 micron or 150 micron. But now the technology is available by which you can beneficiate. One was jigging. Other jigging, there was no other system. Now the technology is available. You can beneficiate even up to 40 also. If the material is free, the condition is that it should be liberated. So these are the development, and these development are good for future. And if it was a normal course, then nobody had time to think over it and give opportunity to experiment and all that, right? So I hope we can look forward with more productive in iron ore beneficiation or even manganese ore beneficiation also.
Yeah.
So on my papers, this can be seen, which have been already
Yeah.
there, So,
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rathore,
Right.
for your opening comments. See, I generally agree with your view. As Mr. Mahindra said, it was a bad period, of course, and we all have fought it gallantly and recovered from it. That's very, and as he rightly mentioned about the digitalization part, now the pandemic has changed the total approach of everybody towards the industry, and maybe we will see a lot of changes in work environment. People talk about work from home. Of course, it is how much it is possible in case of factories and production units, that is yet to be seen. But generally, the work from home concept is getting accepted. Then digitalization now, today itself, you see, we are talking on a digital platform. So maybe 5 years down the line, this will, or even I would say from next year or next to next year, it will become a norm to talk on such platforms and not to physically go anywhere for attending conferences. So this is the change of mindset which pandemic has forced us to adopt, I think, in a way. And as Mr. Roger Kumar was saying, that industry can grow. Industry will definitely grow, but industry will have to be seen in connection with the overall economic growth. It cannot go beyond the economic growth, right, Mr. Roger Kumar? Because the general demand of steel will depend on the growth of the economy in general. It is not
Of
an
course.
isolated industry which can grow in isolation and rest of the economy will not grow. It will not happen like that. So it is strongly linked with the economic growth, overall growth of the economy of the country. And extrapolating it further, I feel that the economy of any country cannot grow in isolation. Right? In this globalized world, economy of any country cannot grow in isolation. So it has to be the world economy which is, if on an upward trend, will benefit all the industries, all the countries, and definitely for steel industry. So having said this, now I will now again go to Mr. Sharath and Mr. Mahindra, and sir, tell us now that we are at a people say that steel industry is faring good, prices are on a on a positive side. I would say demand is growing. So where do we go from here? I mean, how long this will continue? Where you are seeing additional demand in coming months, or you are seeing a challenging period in coming months, and why?
Yeah, Chandika ji very well said actually that no economy can grow in isolation. It has to be coupled with the global growth. Coming back to India, I will be not only talking about next few months, going forward for a reasonable medium term.
Yeah.
It is very important for us to know that in which direction, when you said it's a V-shaped recovery, lot many places it was written, whether it is really a V-shaped recovery or a sustainable growth which is going to be there, what we have witnessed. Maybe this kind of quantum growth may not be there, but yes, it is very important. We all know if we talk of three economies which are very, very important and set a trend in terms of the economic growth in those countries. If we talk of Japan, we all know that was a period of around from 1952, 53 to 74, that 20-year period when Japan economy grew significantly and reached the level what we see today also. That was the economic growth. And if we see that during those 20-25-year period, what was the consumption of steel and contribution of steel in Japan? Mr. Roger also talked about the per capita in the consumption of the world, where we are 1/3. When we talk of these companies, next economy is South Korea. Number two in this Asian region, 1960 to 1980 is the period for South Africa, when South Africa economy grew to what we see as one of the most advanced economies in the world. Then started China, which was in the year around 1980 till 2010, that 30-year period. We all know that what China has done and where China has reached. One common thing which was there in these three economies was the economic growth was driven by construction and infra. Of course, leading to when construction infra, urbanization is growing, happening, whether it is automobile industry, whether it is appliance industries, white goods industry, yellow goods, everything which is steel intensive industries have shown a phenomenal growth, and the steel contributed significantly. Like China, if you see, if India is 1/3 of the global average, or global average is 3 times India, in case of South Korea, maybe the steel consumption is 10 times more than China, India, or maybe 8 times, 10 times, whatever the level is. So I now see India next 25-30 year is the growth period, when what we have already witnessed in economies like, I am not talking of Europe and US, I will come to that how that is going to drive the demand. With these economies, India has just entered that phase of next 25-30 years. I see it's a golden period for the economic growth. Why I am saying so confidently for India is, there is a difference in these three economies of Japan, South Korea, and China, the way they have grown and the way India has grown. India has grown very well. But if you see these, India has grown normally for any economy from an emerging economy to being a matured economy. The growth is farm to machine, machine to services. That is how South Korea, Japan have moved. India, if you see, was a farm-driven, agriculture-driven economy for many, many years. And we have skipped that phase of manufacturing growth, and we have matured from farm to services. The kind of emphasis and the growth which should have been there in manufacturing, India missed that maybe 20 years back, 25 years back. Today, we are one of the strongest economy in world economy in terms of services, what we provide to the world.
Yes.
So now is the phase with the focus of the government in last 5-7 years, especially, and the easing out of the laws, whether it is like I call that 5 M's, which are very important for any industry, manufacturing industry to grow, is man, machine, market, then money, then minerals. All these factors government has been focusing, if we see on all these 5 factors. So I think this is going to drive the demand going forward in a very, very significant way. And it will not be, India is going to be a global hub. When we see of Europe building ended in around 1960. Europe has never built after 1960. Now is the time, all infrastructure in Europe, majority is becoming very old. I was some time back in Europe, I was talking to some experts. There is a rebuilding phase which is a must for Europe to exist going forward next 50 years. Entire infrastructure is so old. That is going to drive the demand in a very, very big way. Similarly, the kind of investment in excess of $1 trillion what US government has announced in construction and infra is going to drive in rebuilding US. So I think globally there is going to be a very, very positive environment in terms of growth. So we have to do, and one of the advantage India has is that now with environment, sustainability, governance, everything, digitalization, we will be growing more responsibly as compared to the economies which grew earlier in period in last 50 years, because these things opportunities were not available. So I think it's a golden phase for Indian economy, and steel is going to play a key role. And last factor is urbanization, which drives the steel demand. Global urbanization level is 55%. India is today also at 35%, growing at a fast rate, but still that kind of urbanization, which road connectivity, electricity across the country, all these factors will lead to more appliances because of electricity, good road conditions, more automobiles in the country, construction infra will lead to urbanization. All those things, I think it's a golden period we see for next 25, 30 years for the Indian steel industry.
Great. You have painted a very rosy picture about Indian steel industry, and which is I would generally I would agree. Generally, I would agree. Okay, one or two points which just I would like to add. You had indirectly mentioned about the famous S curve of economy, where the fastest moving period we are just entering.
Yes.
Right? We have had a growth in the past, but the fastest moving period of any country's life in that famous economic curve
Yes.
is that middle part of S, and that we are just entering. China has maybe entered 20 years ahead of us. UAE, countries like UAE or South Africa, they have entered and they have passed that middle of the fastest growing path maybe. Southeast Asian countries have had the same thing. I think they are at the middle of that fastest moving period. We have just entered that phase. So we can definitely see better growth average, better growth rates in the coming years. That's point number one. And secondly, I remember Mr. Mahindra, when there was global meltdown in 2008, all the economies in the world, major economies in the world crumbled. Okay, they collapsed, nearly collapsed, but India did not. So the reasons are different. We are not much linked with the foreign trade, and our foreign trade was negligible, and our dependence on domestic market was a major consumption source for our economy. So whatever may be the reasons, but we continued to grow. And that was the time when India was first seen as one of the very few economies which can grow in spite of anything happening in the world, global meltdown in the world. That was the period when many FDI institutions, foreign financial institutions, they started eyeing on India as an investment destination. I think the somewhat similar situation has arisen because of pandemic.
Yeah.
India is today also India is seen as one of the very few economies which can sustain any economic tremors in the future. So naturally,
I will like to intervene. One difference there, if you see 2008, you have given an apt example of India bouncing back, but that time, yes. I think my experts, panelists also must be knowing, you also must be remembering, there was one word which came up when the recovery started, China and India. In many of the things, I remember I spoke this word in one of the metal bulletin in Milan, wherein that India was being talked that China and India will be the drivers of the global growth.
Yes, yes.
The difference now is that the strength at which China was there to grow the global growth 13 years back, the China's strength has reduced significantly for many various factors, whether it is related to raw material, whether it is related to the cost. The labor cost, which was very competitive in 13 years, China has also gone equal to like any matured economy, Western economy. The advantage now India has is very, very significant even as compared to China. The world is looking towards India for various reasons, not to discuss other political, but at least from economic reasons. India is definitely, everyone is seeing, we are seeing how the Russia, how US, everyone is looking towards India. So that is the advantage India is having in isolation over China going forward. What China was for the world, India is going to be for the world.
Yes, definitely. In fact, yesterday in the inauguration session, I mentioned why we conceptualized the name Asian Metallurgy in 1998, because we thought that the Asia is going to be the growth engine of the world economy, and which is happening. In last 20 years, if you see all the manufacturing, most of the manufacturing industry has shifted from Western world to Asia. And that is how Asia is now becoming the growth engine of world economy. So that is how we conceptualize and coined this name Asian metallurgy 20 years from now, more than 20 years from now. Anyway, so coming back to the present situation,
May
Mr.
I
Roger.
add-
Just
Yeah.
a point to add, Mr. Chandekar, what you said on
Let me
2008.
complete my question, then you can start.
Okay.
Mr. Roger Kumar, now that we are saying that India is destined to grow, we are entering the fastest period of the that famous world, that economic curve and all that. But tell me one thing, if now coming back to the real world, we are talking about 300 million tons capacity building by 2032 or 2031. Are there enough technology and consulting companies and the companies like you to provide technologies and equipment to the steel industry? Are there enough such companies that we can have this growth, we can chart this growth? What do you think? And of course, your point, whatever you was mentioning.
Yeah, you mentioned 2008. I think
Yeah.
2008 India was self-sufficient because we were hardly exporting anything at that time.
Yeah.
Right now, Indian export right now is also 2 to 3 million dollars only in steel. So that is hardly anything, peanuts. So obviously we will self-dependent. Whatever is happening in world is not our concern. You gave example of Japan, how it grew. Mr. Sharad said Japan was importing at that time all the raw material and making finished steel and giving all over the world. That is how they grew. China was doing exactly the same thing. China was exporting most of its steel abroad. So these countries, China would be affected very much if there is a turn down in the market all over the world. China will be the most affected by that. India still will not be because we are hardly exporting anything. That is one factor which we need to improve.
We are mostly dependent on domestic consumption.
Yeah.
We are domestic consumption driven economy.
Yeah, that is one way of putting it. Other way of putting it, that our steel is not competitive enough to go to the world, and that's an alarming situation.
Whereas I would like to answer this after he finishes. He said steel is not competitive in the world market.
I would
like you to answer.
I will like to.
Not now. Let him finish.
Yes. Because see, it is not what I am saying. It is what the figures are saying. Okay, I can hardly say anything. I can only look at the figures and say, if we are exporting only 2 to 3 million and China is supposing exporting 100 or 200 million, there is something wrong with us. Okay, so it is not. We guys immediately become patriotic because of some reason, but then we have to open up in a very pragmatic manner what we are. Right. So you have to basically understand what we are doing. We were aiming 5 trillion economy about 3 to 4 years back. We came back to 1.5. Then we are struggling at 2.5 right now. If we have to go anywhere, first target should be 5 trillion economy. If we have to reach 5 trillion economy, we have to really invest in our infrastructure. And the point is that this government today, see, everything is driven by the sense of the government, the sense of money which you have. If you all remember, 10 years back, we used to talk about PPP in bridges, PPP in road, PPP lagado, you make the road, you take the toll tax. All those business models were coming up. Now, all this thing is stopped for the last 5 to 6 years. What this government is doing they are pumping in money. You may be paying 100 rupees for petrol. That is another story. But this government is pumping money for infrastructure. They have very, very ambitious plan, and it is welcomed by the steel industry. Because today, if we have to go anywhere around 5 trillion, we have to have our infrastructure in place. If you see that how we can grow, it is not just putting up a steel industry, sir. It is making the roads, it is transportation, it is railway sidings, it is a lot of things which comes up with it, the power supply, the power plants, everything comes into the picture. It is not just supposing we are making 100 million, China is making 1,000 million. 10 years back, we were making only 60, China was making that time 600. So China has always been 10 times. We grew just 40 million, they grew 400 million. So what is it that they grew 400 million and we grew only 40? And with 40 also we have issue. How many blast furnaces we have in India? Mr. Sharad will be able to tell you. Okay, how much of quality steel do we actually make? Sir, peanuts. Primary steel is only 50%. 50% is secondary steel. Garbage in, garbage out, induction furnace. You all know it.
50% percentage maybe no, it is not realistic. I don't think we make 50% non-prime steel.
No, primary industry. What I'm saying is primary steel.
Industry. Yeah. Okay.
Primary industry. I'm not saying.
Okay.
See, primary industry is only 50%, and primary industry
that's fine.
is the type of industry which the steel is accepted with open arms, with all the infrastructure which we are giving. Secondary steel is only catering to domestic market. Am I right, Mr. Sharad?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what I'm trying to say is, my point here is very clear. You asked me about what technologies we have. Sir, there is no dearth of technology. We hardly accepted any technology till now. Blast furnace is the route by which we can increase our technology exponentially. And pellet plants are coming left, right, center into India. We have done very well in DRI technology also. That is not bad. If we can, basically process the steel properly and make good steel, there is absolutely no problem in doing it. We have huge gaps in making steel also today. Mr. Sharad is aware of that. How much of stainless steel we make, how much of long products we make, how much of, so all those things are very much, still we don't make much special steel.
No, Mr. I had asked you a specific question that if we have to move to 300 million tons capacity by 2031, how many EPC companies we have? How many technology companies we have? How many these equipment companies we have which can support this growth? Are there enough such companies which will support this growth? It is not only steel manufacturing company. The whole the process chain of steel manufacturing has to be there in place.
See, necessity is the mother of invention. If there is a scope, everything falls into place.
Government has given the guidelines. JSW and other steel companies are enhancing their capacity. But what
everyone is enhancing,
which can make and manufacture steel plants?
Chandrakar, everyone is expanding today. If I know, JSW has ambitious plans. So does all the primary industry, even secondary industry. Yes, if you know any group, and if you see their growth in the last 5 years, they have all done more than double. So India is growing. It's not that India is not growing. What I'm trying to say is 10 years back, we were 60 to 100 we have reached. China has reached from 600 to 1000. Now, when you talk about technologies, now we all know there are two technologies in steel industry by which we make steel. One is blast furnace, other is DRI. Am I right here? So blast furnace is one technology where we can increase the production very easily. If you go DRI route, you have to put many, 500 tons is what one DRI kiln comes up with. Blast furnace has come, one blast furnace is 4,000 tons of steel a day. So that is the basic difference, even more. So how much modules you want to put, what is the type of growth you want to take, what technologists are available, technology is available. China is giving all the pellet plant technology today. Blast furnace technology is also coming from China. It is not our technology here is only consultancy and putting up these projects. So technologies are available. It is not, and that is fine with us. We can then put indigenously also. Right now, let us take from them and at least grow our capacity. We can't afford German technology. It is very expensive. We can't afford American technology. It is yet to come. Midrex, nobody is able to put in India as yet. Only few SR type plants we have in the primary sector, which we have. So there is no dearth of technology. That is what I'm trying to say. There is absolutely no dearth.
You have not understood. What I'm saying is, if we want to reach 300 million tons, then we have to have 10 million tons per year capacity enhancement. If we have to have 10 million tons per year capacity enhancement, you would need 10 mechans and 10 MN Dasturs for making these designs and erecting the plant, commissioning and erecting of plants. Do we have that capacity in the country? That is what.
No, why do you need 10? Why do you need 10
I mean,
Macons, 10
means
mm the
I'm
school,
saying,
or 10
I'm
chorus,
saying,
or 10 R things?
yeah, yeah. I
They,
mean,
they can cater to all 10. There is no problem.
okay, okay. That's what I'm
We
asking.
have technology. It is not, they are sitting there, they don't have work today. You go to Macon and you go to MN the suit, they don't have work.
Okay.
All right. So right
So
now, our consultancy infrastructure is enough.
absolutely. Then you are satisfied with the kind of these engineering companies which we have, which will cater to the growth of, facilitate
No.
the
See,
growth of steel manufacturing sector.
Chandrakarji, being
Yeah.
satisfied is one thing. The technology provided by them is another thing. There is always enhancement of technology coming every day, for which we lack, as I told you.
Yeah.
In the industry, we always talk to our people also in house and also with the industry. Technology comes from Germany, then you go to Turkey, then you go to Italy, and then Germany, Italy, Turkey, China. That is how the money flows, and that is how the technology flows. Okay, because we guys cannot afford Germany. I'm telling you honestly, we all go to China. Okay, so if किसी के पास थोड़ा ज़्यादा पैसा है for rolling mill, you go to Italy. Very few people go to Germany. All right, these people come. The technologies come with consultancy. Technology come with everything. If you tell me today how many million plant you want to put, million tons of plant you want to put, you will find consultants in place. You will find technology in place. All you need to have is money and the demand, which is very important. Today you have the demand.
Yes.
Today you have the demand because of the policies of this government and the extra effort done by our honorable Prime Minister. He has done tremendous work. I'm very impressed with him. 5 years back he started. Today it is all showing that because of these infrastructure projects which are coming up, we have tremendous demand. Down the line, everything can be organized. It is hardly anything. All over the world, you can go to anybody, give them money, they all will come. There is no problem. I don't see a problem of technology.
List of the things. I can definitely agree with you.
Absolutely, that is what I'm trying to say.
Mr. Rathore, because yesterday there was a point, Mr. Rathore, yesterday there was a point, and Dr. Chattopadhyay was mentioning that if we have to grow, why this point came to my mind, that 300 million tons thing, that if you have to grow from this 150, whatever, 150, 160 million tons annual capacity which we have to 300 million tons, then you will need lot of raw materials, including refractories. And Dr. Chattopadhyay was mentioning that we are still dependent on other countries. 70% of the raw materials for refractories come as an imported source. And so indigenizing and developing the raw materials, and especially refractory industry gearing up for this 300 million tons capacity building is very difficult, and it is a hurricane task. So that's why I want to ask you, Mr. Rathore, that how do you think this raw material industry is gearing up for this growth? Is it gearing up? It is stagnated, or it has to have a push? But before that, I would like Mr. Mahindra. Where is Mr. Mahindra? Yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Mahindra his comments on Mr. Roger Kumar's statement that Indian steel is not competitive. Very short comment, sir. Not patriotic, but industry fact check from the industry. Not political comment.
I will not go by the words. I don't think that not competitive is what exactly in that sense Mr. Roger meant. But I will like to comment on few things. See, one is that competitive in the world are two. One is quantity and one is quality.
Quality. Yes, quality is what I meant more.
Why we are supplying so less quantity to the global market. There are two factors. One, that the phase in which the Indian economy is, that the self-growth requirement is so high. There is no point that at the compromise of domestic demand, we go into the global market. But at the same time, when we talk India as a global hub, it has been the capacity constraints. No capacity addition significant has taken place, if you see, in terms of, if we talk of any greenfield project which in India has come in last maybe 10 years, 15 years. None. Whatever is there is brownfield expansions which have taken place. So quantity has also been, capacity of the steel industry has been the constraint that we have not been able to cater to. Like in case of JSW, now today at a very rapid pace through acquisitions, through brownfield expansion, we have reached a level of 28.5 million tons. And by 2025, we will be in excess of 38 million tons capacity. The growth at which we are growing is keeping in mind exactly what Mr. Roger, you said, to be a global player, supply into global. For that, the quality also is very important. If you see quality, somehow, maybe with due respect to you, I will like to disagree as a steel industry, not just for JSW, but in general. If you see,
I would too. I would too.
okay, last 10, 15 years, if you see
No, sir, my point, no, my point was very limited. My point was
it's okay.
that we guys don't export much. So
Yeah,
we are not
yeah.
competitive the
Right.
way
That is
Chinese
very
are.
taken. That is very
They
taken.
make in huge number, they make in cheap, and they make good quality. That is what I meant.
yeah. But if you see China also, you see the records.
Hmm.
More than 90% of the China export to the global world is commodity grade. Not any special grades, not any value grade added high grade steel. In India, if you see the way industry, automobile industry or appliance industry, if we take, they were purely, totally import dependent because Indian mills were not having the capability till 10 years back. Today, I can say that more than 90% of the steel is supplied to the auto industry or the appliance industry by the Indian companies, Indian steel companies. And also, just to tell you one example, where because we on JSW, just on 10th of December, we have commissioned the ultimate facilities, which are first time in the country in appliance segment. We are the largest supplier to the appliance segment. If we see the refrigerators and the washers, where we see a lot of patterns on the front door, different designs and other things, which is a vinyl coated material. This technology in India is not there, 100% import dependent. 100% of the material coming from Korea for all. We have commissioned that, and we are sure that in next 1 year time, 100% of the import replacement will happen. Even the Korean companies like LG, Samsung, everyone, Whirlpool, hire other companies from the Western world, everyone wants Indian companies to give them. Despite being Korean, they are more comfortable for just-in-time delivery. And than this, 100% of the buying of steel is from Indian companies. So capability like API X70, X80, till few years back, the Indian industry used to struggle. Now today we are exporting. For shale gas, how much we have exported projects in last many years. So capability building has taken place. And in terms of technology, now we are looking towards a better, rather than just having a reversible mill. Today in our JSW Steel, our coated steel plant, where we have a capacity of 7 million ton of coated, we have put PLTCMs, which has never been heard in India, at least, and all over world. Very, very few companies you will find that PLTCM of 1.5 million ton is being installed and being run for color coating or for galvanizing or making galvalume. So technology is extremely important. I fully agree with you to be global, to be a global player. And Indian company has reached a very significant level for that.
Yes.
Still, there are areas on which the work is going on. So I assure you, to assure all my audience, that I don't think that quantity and quality going forward with the capacity additions which are going to take place with quality will be that there will be any challenge. We will be a better global player in terms of quality. Maybe not the quantity, because China, the kind of capacity China has, we may not be able to reach the China level in terms of quality. But quality wise, I can say we will be far, far superior than what China has given to the world, what India will give.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And I'm sure if Mr. Roger Kumar will be more than happy if you and me prove him wrong, isn't it, Mr. Roger?
No. Sharadji has said exactly what I was saying,
Yeah,
but he's just used
half glass with half filled or half empty. It is just question of that. Anyway, so
Yeah.
now I will go to Mr. Rathore. But again, before that, Sharadji, you mentioned about brownfield expansion. Let me add here one thing, that see, in India, the land acquisition laws are not in place. So there is a limit to, there is a very difficult situation if somebody wants to conceive a greenfield plant. So there is no other way but to grow by the brownfield mode. So that is one of the constraints which, when we say how long the growth will continue, the one answer to this, there are many answers I know, but the one answer to this question is, as long as we have opportunity for brownfield expansion.
And in
unless the land acquisition laws are in place.
And we are a mineral rich company. Mr. Rathore is the best person to tell. The
Yes.
capability to use whatever we have within the country rather than exporting low grade iron ore and all, that is where the industry is also working. Beneficiation, pelletization, everything. That pelletization, of course, is one of the process, but beneficiation using the low grade mineral available rather than exporting is the key going forward. There, of course, coking coal will continue to remain as a challenge for the Indian steel industry with import dependence that we have to manage.
Mr. Rathore, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sharad.
I will talk about something little different. Number one, we should not ignore the demand of the agriculture. Agriculture is going to be one of the sector which will absorb the maximum consumption of all kind of materials. I remember 15, 20 years back when the rain was good, the crop was good, the share market used to, the share prices used to go just because the crop used to be good. The buying power starts from there. So in coming days, with the growth in agriculture sector, the steel industry or anybody will have the maximum demand from the agriculture and the rural sector. So we should also include that. Second is the quality part. In India, I would say hardly 10% consumers think of quality. Our quality is bad because the demand of quality and its recognition is not there. It's a fact. I go suggest something for good quality, but they say, no, we can do with this. So that is another factor for the quality part.
चलता
Now,
है technology.
Sasta.
It's money-driven market. To be very plain and simple, he's right. It's money-driven market. Technology is also money-driven. To an extent only, but it is.
जो चांडेकर साहब ने बार बार एक प्रश्न किया that are we geared up for the technology and equipment machinery to support 300 million tons. I am with Mr. Chandekar and will say that we are not geared up. Who is the technology company in this country? I can quote, I have been in the meeting with Dastur and company. My client asked that we want a complete right from concept to complete plant for beneficiation. They raised their hand. What they do, a complete project offer from foreign companies, equipment and everything. They are only integrator. So as far as the user is concerned, I can say that users are also not wise. I can quote few example. In case of sinter manufacturing and use of sinter, what I learned from various people that increase 1% Fe in your sinter, then on today's market, you get a benefit of rupees per ton of liquid metal produced from that sinter. But I know the people, they are using 58 grade ore also. They are not interested in beneficiating it. In case of you can use the concentrate. Our industry, sinter industry, they are not capable of using, they don't want to use. Concentrate you can get 63, 64%, but sinter feed they are using 57 to 59. Why? सब चलता है. ये चीज जो है ना, टेक्नोलॉजी का ना तो रिकॉग्निशन है और इसीलिए वो टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है। किसी को समझाते रहिए, सर फोड़ लीजिएगा, लेकिन टेक्नोलॉजी उसके समझ में नहीं आएगी। वो कहेगा हम ऐसे ही चलाएंगे।
Metallurgy is going to open Pandora box now.
Yes, I am
This,
dealing with that.
this is a problem with all the technology providers in this country, actually.
So this is what is happening.
They are not happy with
I'm doing
their
some
customers.
regarding the equipment manufacturer. When you go for a ball mill, a requirement, you will find 3 or 4 for beneficiation industry. For cement, there are people, but for beneficiation industry, you will find hardly 3 suppliers. Very low grade, low quality material, and those and like many others, if you want to ask somebody, I'm in Bhilai. I have been telling many manufacturers here that it is a hub for job work. Bhilai is a hub for doing job work for steel industry. I suggest many people to manufacture certain equipment required by the beneficiation industry. Nobody is coming forward. The whole machine designs can be provided, everything can be arranged, but no one is there. चल रहा है गाड़ी। तो ऐसे में जो आपका कंसर्न है चांडेकर जी, that is a concern that should be a concern for everybody. We should gear up in that field also.
Thank
Right?
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rathore.
I'd like to add what Mr. Rathore has said.
Please,
See,
please.
he's very right what he's saying. But Sharaji would agree with me. All the groups which have grown, they have grown all by taking everything on themselves only, and then they've done pretty well, including JSW. You see all the Jindal groups. You see everybody has grown by taking the technology responsibility on themselves, and they have found the consultant, they have found the technology, and they have come up with the just law, as Mr. Sharad was saying, 2-3 examples is given, that he's replaced the import what used to come to India. All these technologies, they have used their own brain. Even the consultants today are not aware in India that technology even exists because they don't know. What they do is he's right. They take offer from 10 people and then make their own this thing and submit to the user. That's all they're doing. But then that is how things are done. That is how things are actually done. So, अगर किसी को करना है, what I'm trying to say, if I want to put up a plant and if I have thought that I'll put a blast furnace and I'll make a special steel, I can do it. I'll find my people, I'll do it. So there is no dearth of that also. That is also another point.
So where is the problem?
Add one point what Mr. Rathore said, which was very important in the very beginning of his last statements regarding contribution of agriculture to the Indian economy. It has always been important. If we see going forward also, agriculture in a different way is going to play a very important role, which is in terms of the farm mechanization. When we see level of farm mechanization in India, the impact is unbelievable. When I see the numbers, is only 40-45%. US is at 95%. Okay, that is an advanced economy. Brazil is an economy which is very, very similar to what Indian economy is. That is at 75% farm mechanization. We are far below. Maybe billions and trillions of dollars of the crops and other things. So much of decay happened, so much of waste with the economy is losing. Indian government is working on, and farm is going to continue to play an important role. And also in terms of wherein steel will play a role, whether we talk of silos, which are hardly exist in a structured way, the way Food Corporation of India warehouses are there, the way storage is there. So a lot of things, support is required for the agriculture, and farm mechanization is going to play a key role, is what I feel. Yeah, Mr. Rathore.
Yes.
Yes, चांडेकर जी,
Yes, sir.
एक चीज I would add.
Yeah.
There is a technology. It has been proved, and it was being used in China, maybe in some other places. and I wanted to promote it, that integrated pellet plus DRI plant, because India is doing lot of DRI, uh, uh, means secondary route.
Hot charging. Hmm.
So integrated pellet and DRI, it's a wonderful thing and save coal, energy, cost, everything. I could not find one person who is prepared to do such a job. So that's how I say, when there's something very good available, even the adaptability and the risk, nobody want to take a risk of this for 10 crore rupees. There
सर मैं
are
बताऊं आपको, मैं एक बताऊं आपको, आपको पहला कस्टमर मिल जाएगा ना, तो उसके बाद 100 कस्टमर का लाइन लग जाएगा. गेटिंग दैट फर्स्ट
हाँ,
कस्टमर.
फिर तो वो कॉपी चली जाएगी ना सर. आई हैव क्लाइंट्स, आई हैव सीन द क्लाइंट. उसने पूछा, राठौर जी आप ये बताइए, इतनी टेक्नोलॉजी है तो फिर लोग क्यों नहीं अडॉप्ट करते हैं. मैंने यही आपसे जवाब जो कहा, मैंने कहा सर सबको चोरी की डिजाइन और ड्राइंग चाहिए, इसलिए नहीं
Let us not
अडॉप्ट.
go into that gray area. Let us not go into that gray area. Let us come back to our main question: how long the growth of the industry will continue?
Yeah,
So now
sir,
we have,
this is an area where people should think of the potential of
yes,
requirement
I do agree that mindset we have, that let somebody
of
else
new
try, let
equipment.
somebody else experiment, and I will only eat the fruits. So that mindset has to change to some extent. In fact, that comes to one very big question, that we are not paying enough attention to the R&D and the research in the industry. So that is one way where we have to concentrate as an industry. We have to concentrate. We should have more research centers. We should spend more into R&D, and that is how these new technologies will be smoothly adopted. Will be smoothly adopted by the industry, by the various companies in the industry. What do you say, Mr. Roger Kumar?
Yeah, very, very pertinent point which you have made. I'll give you a China example. I have been going to China for last almost like 15 years. We were having office also there at that time. What they have done is, I'll tell you their model. It is very interesting. They used to import everything from Italy, Germany, and they have their what they call state consulting companies. What these companies did, they only copied the technology which came to them. Then they did some improvement according to their Chinese environment. And they say, okay, now we have this technology. Any company which comes to them, they will give them the technology and they can put up the project. It's a beautiful model, beautiful model. So if I want to import something from China, I can go to two people, one manufacturer and even to the state consulting company, which can give you all the drawings for money and you can put up your own project. So in India, unfortunately, we don't have agencies like that, which can do research and have the ready drawings, which can give you for money. Here we have consultants. We have that kind of, we have not many, 4-5 consultants. They are doing all the projects. So they take, for example, their business model is simple. They take some percentage of the total project. And that is how the things are done. R&D naam ki cheez, actually, if we talk about steel industry, all those things which are already done in the industry, we are still catching up in India. We are not doing something very different which world has not done. So R&D tab aayegi na, agar hum kuch cheez we are not catching up, or we are doing something very unique, or we come up with some composite which is not existing in the world. World has already done it. Why invent wheel and spend so much money? You can give them for money, the technology can come to you, then you can make it indigenously.
Yes. One more point I can add. You were talking about the research institutes in China. I will tell you, here also they have a different model. Like in India, all the research institutes are funded by government, mostly, I would say. In China, the research institutes have to raise their own funds.
Yes, they make money by selling the technology.
Yes, they make money by selling designs. They make money even by organizing fairs like we are organizing in India. You know,
Right.
they are doing whatever it takes to raise funds for their they should do it as a business. No, ultimately that research has to go in the business. So they should have
See, that is the
clients, they should
difference.
have
That is
customers.
the difference, Chandrika ji. That is the very different which Mr. Rathore was pointing out, which you are pointing out. The problem in India is now this is some very
All
gray
these,
matter.
I have seen
But
all these research institutes and even other I don't want to take the names, but they are living on the grants received from the governments. They are
yes, sir.
not
The
doing
reason
good
is very
enough.
simple. The reason is, I'll tell you the reason. In India, people who have brain do not have money, and people who are our entrepreneurs are not very well educated. I'm making a very big statement here. The problem is that Lalaji does not have any respect for technology. This is the basic fact in India. You have to accept it. In China, those consulting company could run because people are ready to pay them. In India, no one pays for drawing. वो तोल के लेते हैं सब कुछ, sir. If you buy everything by weight, I mean, where is the technology going? That is the problem in India, and we have to address it very seriously. We can talk about the technology, this thing of the end product, that what is the quality, what we are saying, but by the machine by which they are made, first time they will be imported perfectly fine. Then we will start copying them. And those drawings will be circulated all over the place. And they will become a commodity of weight. When we talk about engineering, an engineer should be respected in this country, sir. That is the basic problem.
I know.
Mr. Rathore, do you agree with me?
Yeah. Mr. Mahindra, please put on your video now. We have almost 1 hour 15 minutes we are discussing, and now I think let us come to the end of this program. I would like to ask all of you the last comment on our basic question: how long will the growth continue? Starting with Mr. Rathore first and ending with Mr. Sharad. Mr. Sharad, your word will be the last word. So be prepared for that, starting with Mr. Rathore.
The growth will continue, and it cannot last it because India is going to grow, and then the other countries, the export expected this country. So this is a mineral-rich country. If we are talking about steel, many countries are not blessed with the raw material. So naturally, countries will require, and we will be competitive. That I'm sure that our quality and cost will be always competitive as a developed nation. So we will continue to grow. There's no doubt about it. And the period cannot be defined. We care about our growth, but the world is there. It has to grow. Right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rathore. Now, Mr. Roger Kumar, what is your last take on all the discussion?
My take is very simple, sir. My take is that we are so low that we can only look up. We have done hardly anything. We have done hardly, if you compare to our population, and if you take our infrastructure, we have just not done nothing in so many years. Now, with this government coming up and these projects coming up, we have a huge scope of growth. And where it is going to end, I think that no one knows. But then we are 700 million. People are doing, China is doing 1,000 million. I mean, where is the comparison? So if we have to go anywhere as compared to China, also we have to grow 10 times. Then we will think what we have to do next. So our export is it's negligible right now. As Mr. Rathore was putting up, I don't understand only one thing. We are mineral-rich company. There are countries who import the raw material, process it, including China. That also does it. Process the raw material and sells a good quality steel at the cheaper rate as compared to India. Now, this is something which we need to see. Why can't with our so much of abundance of raw material make a good quality steel? Now, what is happening? We have to manage our transport. That is one thing. Sir, we pay 4 rupees 4 rupees for a ton. I mean, China pays 25 paisa, okay, for transportation. What is our energy cost? If you see that as compared with China, I mean, we are almost, I mean, 2 or 3 times than them. So if we compare, that is the reason why we are making expensive steel. And because we are making expensive steel and we want to compete in the market, we goof up, we manipulate the quality to an extent. Okay, so that we can go. So we have to make a steel which is sellable also. We need to sustain ourselves. So we have it's very cash 22 situation. A mineral rich country can make steel cheaper and quality in the world. I think sky is the limit. We have the whole world market for us. Why there is no ending? Why don't we do it? I'm surprised.
What is your answer to the basic question? How long the growth will continue?
It will continue at least in my lifetime. Don't know after that.
Next 100 years.
See, we hardly have done anything, Chandrakar ji. Where are the high-rise buildings? Where are the roads, railroads, highways? Where are they? If you've been to Europe, Europe infrastructure is a little low, but you have been to Manhattan, you've been to Shanghai, you've been to countries where even UAE, the infrastructure is tremendous. It is, you can see it in front of your eyes. हम लोगों ने कुछ किया दिल्ली में तो मल्टी-राइज बिल्डिंग है नहीं. It's all use H-beam steel, na? It's all made of steel only. So once we have those infrastructure coming up, I don't think so. 5 trillion is nothing for us. We can actually do much better by just infrastructure. And today this government has intent, and plus they have money. That's the main point. They have money and intent both. So we are in the right path.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let's hope for the best. Now, Mr. Sharad Mahindra, your last and closing comments.
Yeah, Chandrakar ji, I have already commented, and I'd like to comment by adding few points. The Indian steel and the growth, how long will it continue? I see from immediate to a medium term, maybe 20 years, 30 years, the growth to continue. Of course, being the commodity as such, cyclic in nature, in between we may see minor ups and downs, what you also said very correctly, S-type. So, but yes, the growth is likely to continue and will definitely, and this is primarily, if you see, dependent. We have been talking what Mr. Roger said, I definitely agree in terms of the capability building to produce whatever is required globally. But one thing we have to remember, and that India steel industry is keeping in mind that domestic demand is going to be the key driver. The reason is, if we go back maybe to 15 years, 20 years, globalization was the word which was being talked upon, from regionalization to globalization. But what pandemic has taught and what we have witnessed in last 2 years, global economy is again moving back to regional economy by putting it the trade barriers, and protecting their own economy. US is the biggest example. Europe has already also done that. So I think this is, but the kind of FTAs which are being talked upon and which are being signed, the latest being very soon, we will see the announcement of India signing the FTA with UAE. So these things are going to throw a global platform to be globally competitive. But depending on our growth on global demand and global market, will be a challenge, but there is a key. It's still not the steel export, but the engineering export, where steel plays a key role, is going to be the key and will be a gate which we have not tapped even in decimals of the potential which exists of the engineering good exports, promoting the MSMEs. So these are the factors on which we are strategizing our entire growth plan. Not just depending that I make a steel and export, I support the domestic industry, supply domestically for a global export of engineering goods. So there are many factors, renewable energy, what we are talking of 450 gigawatt, 400 gigawatt, maybe 2030, not 2030, 2035. Wind and solar is going to play a key role. This has to happen. This has to happen. These are highly steel intensive infrastructures. So which is going to be, we are seeing that almost all B class, even now C class towns are going towards metro. the kind of airports which are coming up. We will see connectivity from district to district the way US is, that there are aircrafts run like taxis. That is what is the India of future, wherein I feel that this is the best time, the golden period for Indian steel has started, and which will likely to continue for at least next 20 to 30 years is what my take.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharad Mahindra. And with that very strong positive note from everybody, we now end this program. It has been a very absorbing discussion. We covered a lot of points, right from how we rose from the pandemic days, how we recovered our production, how we recovered our market, how we corrected the disrupted logistic chain, and all that we discussed. And now everybody is quite bullish on the future of Indian steel industries on short-term level and on a long-term level also, as Mr. Mahindra rightly said. We are just entering that S curve, entering the vertical part of S curve. And so we can expect a good growth for India in short term as well as medium term as well as long term area. And I thank all the participants for their very insightful inputs. And if there are any questions, I would like to put them on the chat. If there are any questions on this, let us wait for a few minutes if there are any questions. Otherwise, we come to the end of this program. If anybody has any questions, he can put them in the chat box. So if there are no questions, I think now let's end this discussion. And I thank you very much, Mr. Roger Kumar, Mr. Sharad Mahindra, and Mr. Rathod for participating in this very absorbing and very topical discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandrika ji. Honor is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.